Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
He's a very honorable person. He is proud of where he's from. He always tells everyone he's not just from Louisiana, but he's from Bernice, Louisiana, which caused another conversation. And loyal, very loyal. And those are the characteristics that I've loved about him from the day I met him.
Willis Reed was born 14 miles south of the Arkansas border in Hyco, Louisiana, just down the road from Bernice, where his legendary skills as a basketball player were honed.
He's always been that kind of guy that pushed himself to be better.
As a freshman at Grambling, he led his team to its first NAIA National Basketball Championship and was twice named All-American.
I think he is one of the top athletes that come out of Grambling.
After scoring an amazing 2,280 college career points, Willis headed to the NBA's New York Knicks. 1965 was the start of an incredible decade of superior athleticism and awards, which included 2 NBA championships, induction into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1982, and recognition as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. But none of his athletic accomplishments would ever outshine his performance as captain of the New York Knicks in the final NBA championship game against the Los Angeles Lakers.
Slows it down, is picked up by Jerry West at the top of the post. Reed, good! Willis Reed scores the first bucket in. Try Willis Reed. And Reed now is outside. There's his second shot. He is 2 for 2. Willis Reed.
And everyone was wondering if he was going to play.
Many players would say that, well, I'm true, I'm not going to play.
He said that he had to go because he would not want to sit back and talk to his grandkids about what if I, didn't play.
That playing hurt. I looked at him when he played. I said, shoot, I'm not going to miss a game. He didn't. He could barely walk back out there. I forgot how many he scored, but they wouldn't have won it without him.
After a decade of playing with the Knicks, Willis moved on to coaching and then management positions, including with the New Orleans Hornets.
If he never had to put another suit on, it wouldn't bother him. If it was a hunting gear, that's a different story. Willis really loves the country life.
Any time that I can't catch up with him, then I know that he's somewhere either hunting or fishing.
If I could put a theme on Willis's life, it's just he's humble, he's appreciative, he never takes anything for granted. And I think those are great qualities in a person. I think he has had an influence on a lot of young people, and I'm sure he's aware of that. And he tries to govern himself accordingly.
He would reach out and help people. He was just that type man.
I think one of the things that Willis is most proud of is his church in Bernice, Louisiana. He was very influential in getting that church built and donated quite a bit to get it done, and I think that's probably one of his proudest moments off the court.
Do the right thing. Be accountable for your own action. I think that's a theme to him. And the reason I'm saying that because I try to pattern my life after him.
He's always put his best foot forward at whatever he was trying to do and was satisfied with his results because he says that he's always done his best. And you can't ask anything more from anyone.
Willis Reed, NBA superstar, living the country life in North Louisiana.
Hello, I'm Beth Courtney. This Louisiana legend was born in the tiny Union Parish community of Hyco and grew up in Bernice in North Louisiana. Basketball has been in his blood since childhood. This quiet man was a player, a coach, and a mentor who's seen the bright lights of Broadway but has come home to Louisiana to enjoy the sportsman's paradise. Willis Reed, welcome to Louisiana Legends. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for having me.
I know it's nice to have you home. You're back
I'm happy
almost.
to be home.
Thank you.
I'm back home. Yeah,
You're back almost where you started, huh?
Yes, I love the North Louisiana. I tell people I'm actually a North Louisiana hillbilly, and I like the country up there. And I've been around a lot of places, but I'm an outdoorsman and I like to fish. And it used to be all the Louisiana license plates used to say sportsman paradise. Well, I know I live in what they consider now, they section Louisiana off as sportsman paradise in the northern part of the state where we got such fishing, good fishing and hunting.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hyco, Louisiana, not a very big community.
Not very big, no. My grandfather had a farm there. And I was born there. My dad was away in service and all. And then when I guess I got to be 6 years old, we moved to Bernice.
You probably began playing basketball early. What age did you start?
Well, I kind of got into basketball in the unusual way. I liked football, but I had not played, being an only child. But at 8th grade, I was 6'2". We graduated in the end of May, and the day after school was finished, I broke my left arm on riding my bicycle, and I went back to school in September. I actually had grown 3 inches, so I was 6'5". At my first year, my mom was all excited about me playing. You know, I'm an only child. You know how moms are with only kids. Well, you know, and so every night we'd go out and play a game. I come home, knock on the door, and she said, "Well, who won?" We lost. Well, knock on the door. Who won? We lost. Knock on the door. Who won? We lost. So finally, I walk on the door one night, and she said, "Well, who won?" I said, "We lost." She said, "I should have known that before I even asked." And I said, "God, I got to work hard at this game. I mean, I want my mother to be proud of me. I mean, kids want their mother to be proud, because she would want to cook me all those German chocolate cakes and those banana puddings."
So you can grow. Keep growing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it took some time. And I think Coach Lyndon Stone, who was my high school coach, spent a lot of time with me and was very encouraging. And it developed. Then my 10th grade year, I started to play football.
Well, you, of course, on your college career, you went to Grambling. Were you there when Ralph Waldo Emerson Jones was the president?
I was there when President Jones was the president and also the baseball coach.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a great time. I tell people, if there was any 4 years of my life I could live over again, I would go back to college. Because I left home as an 18-year-old and left at Grambling at 22, going from there to the pros to play professional basketball. But the things that had changed and things that I learned in those 4 years were tremendous.
What did you learn?
Well, I grew up. I grew up from being a little boy that understand how to be responsible, go to class, do what you have to do, make sure you graduate on time. Well, that was the real big test for me, to make sure I graduated, because growing up as a little boy, I used to see my dad come home with sweat down to his knees, and Coach Stone used to wear a jacket and a tie to work, lived in a much nicer home, to a much nicer car than we did. So I said, well, if I can go to college and become a high school coach, I could live like Coach Stone. That'd be pretty nice. And then there was one final thing that happened that really made me want to go to college, was that I went to work for Mr. Donald Lindsay, who my dad worked for, and I worked for him. I had calluses in my hand building warehouses, and I tell people, inspiration sometimes come from different sources. Sometimes we always think that positive influences is what inspire people. Well, after working for that summer, 2 months with my dad up there on Mr. Lindsay's job, if there was ever any doubt about me going to college, I told my dad. He said, "Well, you can stay here and work for Mr. Lindsay." I said, "No, Dad, I think I'm going to go to college." And I did. And I think that experience of being able to have to work with my dad and work with Mr. Lindsay and to go to college and realize that if I became a teacher, because that was a pretty good profession. And my goal going into Grambling was that I went 3 summers and went all 4 years, that I was going to be the last guy in the line in June of 1964, and I was. So, that was a really good goal, and something that I could achieve, that I knew I could achieve. Whether I was going to be good in basketball, I didn't know that. That was just hard work.
A lot of really star athletes now, when they're in college, don't get that degree right away. I know Shaquille O'Neal came back to LSU to complete it. Do you advise, you're a mentor to people, do you say it's good for you to finish that degree at some point?
Well, I think you should always start out, and I tell young people to find something you like doing you know, and if you want to have it as a profession and be passionate about it, because if you do that, you'll always have a profession and you'll be something you do and it won't be work. And I think we always, because careers in sports can be very short or it can be non-existent. I mean, just because you start out as a good athlete, you could have a knee injury and your career could be over with. So I think that, you know, one thing, you cannot rely on that as a source of what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And I think that even today in our world, I see that a lot of our young athletes who make a lot of money and, you know, make millions of dollars now, and their career is over. A few years thereafter, they don't have any because they really didn't ever end up with a profession or a career that they could utilize and do for the next 40 years anyway, because most of the time now we're probably going to live, these young people are going to live to be 80 years old.
Absolutely.
Most of all us, or more.
Well,
I'm planning to live beyond that
are
myself.
You? Me too.
I'm trying, anyway.
Well, back, though, in 1964, when you were drafted, you were coming out of Grambling, you were drafted to play for the New York Knicks. What was that like? I mean, salaries weren't as high as they are today, though. But
believe me, they were not.
Yeah.
I know.
What was it like to be drafted by the New York Knicks?
Well, I kind of, you know, I really was pretty disappointed, really, because I'd had a pretty good college career. And that in 1960-61, my first year at Grambling, the Grambling Tigers actually won the NAIA championship in Kansas City, and I had a good career. Matter of fact, that was in that process of me growing and developing at Grambling. But the biggest thing was that when I left and graduated, the pros, the game, we only were making, well, my first contract I made $11,000.
11,000 went farther in '64, but not that far.
but it was like you know, my friends that were graduating as teachers, they were going to make somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. So I mean, obviously, I knew that I was very fortunate to do that. But I mean, I really thought that I was not going to get drafted. I was going to get drafted before that because I had played in the NAIA tournament. I was I won a gold medal in the Pan American Games in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I had actually played in the Olympic trials and did not make the Olympic team. So I thought I was going to be, instead of being the 10th player pick, which would have been the lottery player today, I thought I was going to be in the first 9 players, because if I had been in the first 9 players, I would have made a couple $1,000s more.
I see.
And so that was my real reason. But New York ended up being the right place for me. It ended up being a great place to play and a good career.
Well, the Knicks then went into their glory years. I mean, you had some fabulous years. In '65, you were Rookie of the Year. That was my proving to everybody that they were wrong, because I really thought I should have been picked. But I actually, if I sit here now and you look back over it, I mean, there couldn't have been a better place to go to play than New York, because they needed a center. And I actually got a chance to play right away, and I got a chance to play a lot of minutes, make the All-Star team as a rookie. So those were really tremendous things that happened to me very early. Well, whenever I tell anyone that we're going to visit with you, they always, you know what they talk about. They talk about, everybody remembers May 8th, 1970, the Knicks and the Lakers. A just memorable moment in sports history. Does it you say every day somebody asks you, or you think about it still to this day? Well, listen, people remind me of it quite often, and actually that day is a very significant moment for other reasons too. My daughter was actually born on May 8th. Veronica Marie Reed was born May 8th in 1965, so in 1970 she was 5 years old. So we'll always remember May 8th. As her birthday. As her birthday, as a big moment in my life, too. Well, tell us about the Knicks and Lakers series, that particular series. You were injured and in great pain, but you decided to get in the game. Take us back to 1970. What was that time like? Well, I have to take you back a little further than May 8th, 1970. I have to take you back to April in 1969. We got beat by Boston, Game 6 at Boston Garden, and they went on and won a championship, Russell 11 championship in 13 years. And we left Boston Garden saying that we were going to win the championship the next year because Russell and Sam Jones was going to retire. And so we started to come back from training
summer off and come back in September, and we really was in good shape, and everybody played well. And everything went well according to script until we got to Game 5 of the championship with the Lakers, and the series was tied 2-2. And in the first quarter, I actually drove to the basket, and I pulled some muscles on my hip and thigh, and I went down. Didn't think I was hurt, but ended up being really seriously hurt. That game, the Lakers went up by 14 plus, and eventually we actually won Game 5. So we maintained the home court advantage, and that was, I think, the most significant game, which set up 7 because Game 6, Wilt Chamberlain had a great game. He had 45 points, 27 rebounds against us in L.A., and then coming back to May 8th, everyone was saying, will Willis Reed play and all that? And I got all these calls from my high school coach saying, Willis, you got to play. I got a call from Coach Hodney from Grambling, you got to play. But so I worked out, and I actually went out on the court and shot a little bit in the afternoon, and I still had pain, but they said, well, we're going to give you these carbocaine injections, and you should be okay, and it should alleviate some of the pain. But I took the injections and all the players came back and talked to me. Said, Captain, if you give us 20 minutes tonight, this is the Busher and Clyde and Bill Bradley, we're going to win. This is our championship. I said, okay, guys. And then finally, time came for the game to go, and I wasn't ready, so Red told me we got to go out. And so I walked out on the court later, and I got a standing ovation, and I was saying to myself, hey, this is a heck of a predicament to be in. I mean, play Game 7 against Wilt Chamberlain, the only guy to ever average 50 points a game, the only guy to ever score 100 points in a game, just had a 45-point game against us last game, and I'm going to try to do it on one leg, but the fans believing that we're going to get it done because the captain is here. And I said, this is a heck of a predicament. But as it would be, and I guess fate sometimes is something we don't have total control over. I went out on the floor, we did tip, and as a result, coming down the floor after the first turnover, we came back, and I was the last guy coming down the floor. Wilt kind of went under the basket, and I stopped at the free throw line. Walt Frazier passed me the ball, better known as Clyde, and I shot the ball, and it went in. And then next time we come back down the floor, the same thing happened. I'm on the right side of the free throw line, and Dick Barnett passes me the ball. Wilt is back under the basket. I shoot the ball, and it goes in. And after that, I mean, the crowd was so pumped, and Walt Frazier had probably one of the greatest games ever. He had 39 points and 29 assists. I mean, he really had a phenomenal game. And I think that was one of the greatest moments of our lives. I mean, for a young group of guys from all over the country to be able to be a team, and we were not a physically dominating team, but we were a good basketball team.
That must have been just, what was it, adrenaline just pumping? I mean, did the crowd kind of lift you up? I mean,
I really don't know. I think it was fate. I think it was all the time. I mean, the luck of I don't know. I just know in your lifetime that you're going to have a chance to make a difference on certain things and what's going to happen in that moment. And I always dreamed of being able to, I always used to shoot jump shots and say, and when I used to work out on my own, I said, I always want to be able to develop this shot to the point that if you wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can still make a jump shot. And those two probably were the most important jump shots I've ever made. Because I've got my own basketball goals. So I worked at the game, and which most players do, but I was very dedicated. And that's a skill that guys that, you talk to most players who are very good shooters. I mean, they spend a lot of time working at it, and I was lucky enough to make the 2 shots that probably was the 2 most important shots I've ever shot.
Well, of course, you went on. You were on all kinds of, championship teams and all-star games, and they retired your jersey. Was that a moving moment when they did that? Knicks retired
I tell people that they asked me we talked about May 8th, and I was an all-star in my rookie year in the NBA, probably, but all the things you end up accomplishing like that are interwoven with effort of your teammates. Your teammates, you don't win those kind of awards, MVP, unless your teammates are there and they do what they're supposed to do to help you get there, and you are maybe a little better than them in some areas, and you end up getting that reward. But probably when my jersey was retired for the Knicks, probably the most significant award that I ever received in basketball, even though I had retired, because why? Number one, the Knicks had been a member of the NBA since 1946, its inception, and my number was the first number ever to be retired. And I think that says something about longevity and what you accomplished in your time with the organization. That made me very happy. And at that point, and I said it, even though my number is the first number retired, that there were going to be a lot more numbers here with me, and it was, Earl Monroe, Walt Frazier, DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, and Patrick Ewing, which is rightly so, because they have been some of the great players that have played for the organization. But I was happy to be the first, and that to me was my greatest individual award.
Well, are you still close to some of the players that you...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Bill Bradley, you and Bill.
Very good. Very close.
He could have been president almost.
Matter of fact, when he was campaigning and running against Gore to become the Democratic nominee for presidency, I was working for the New Jersey Nets at the time, and I used to tell Bill, I said, Bill, at the time, DeBusschere was working for him and all that, and Clyde was working, Earl was working for him. We were all doing that. And I said, Bill, I still work for the New Jersey Nets. And I got a job. He said, well, he thought about it for a minute. He said, well, I'll tell you what, you work for them Monday through Fridays, and you give me Saturday and Sunday. But
great.
It was great because,
great.
He's a good man. We had a lot of good times together.
Your career in basketball continued in the coaching and the front office field and everything. And how was that transition from the actual playing into talking about watching and helping others play?
Well, I think it was a great learning experience. If I had to do it over, I would do it differently. I think I would learn a little bit more about it before I go and start my first job. But I did learn on the fly, and it was a tremendous experience to be able. I worked 4 years at Creighton University, and I went to work for the Atlanta Hawks, and I actually spent the last 15, 16 years and one stretch with the New Jersey Nets, which was my long tenure. And I was there in the New York area, so I got a chance to see some of my former players, and obviously still be a Knicks fan from the far. I couldn't root too far. Not too loud, but a lot of times some of the guys on the in the organization, we would go to play the Knicks, and they said, come on, Willis, let's go to the Garden. We're going to beat the Knicks. Well, during that time, they had Patrick Ewing, who was a very good player, and we weren't going to beat him. So I said, I'm not going. I'll watch the game at home. So the guys won't see me being mad at my team, So now I can root for them since I'm no longer affiliated with them.
And you enjoyed your time with the Hornets, too?
I enjoyed it. What happened with that was that I went back in 03, 04 to work for the Knicks, and I still had 2 years on my contract there, but a job came available here in New Orleans with the Hornets, and my mom was very ill, only child, and the Knicks let me out of my contract, and I ended up taking the job with the Hornets, and I used to say to myself, I can't believe this. I'd already now built a home back in Louisiana. We started building our house in 02 and back in Ruston, and we finished in 03, and now I got a job in 04 working in New Orleans, and I said, and I'm going to be able to retire working in Louisiana. I said, this is coming full circle, Well, the first year was a tough year for us, and then August comes and we have Katrina, and we ended up having to spend my last 2 years of actual working in Oklahoma City, which was nice, but I would have preferred not having Katrina and spent those last 2 years in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. What's your day like in Ruston now? What do you?
Well, generally, I have a fairly good-sized piece of property and with open, so I do a lot of cutting grass. I like to cut grass, and I got 3 fish ponds.
I wish you'd talk to my husband.
I got fish ponds. I love the outdoors. I like to fish. I like to hunt. So I spend a lot of time outdoors doing that and trying to keep my property looking nice and trying to keep myself active, too, because I think the one thing as you get older, we're not as active, and you need to push yourself to go out and walk and stuff to kind of keep yourself in some kind of condition.
You told me that another North Louisiana athlete, another Louisiana legend, was one of your heroes too, Terry Bradshaw.
Well, he was one of my young heroes, but
yeah,
two of my older heroes were, number one was who was the guy inspired me. We didn't talk about it.
Right.
And we talked about my career starting out in ninth grade. When I started to play basketball in ninth grade, my hero then was who? Bill Russell.
Oh, yes.
Because Bill Russell lived in Monroe till he was 12 years old, and he moved to California, and Oakland, California, and he lived there, you know, all the way through his career in college, played college basketball at San Francisco. But anyway, when I first became a freshman in high school, he was a rookie at the Boston Celtics, and he was left-handed like me, and so I wanted to learn how to block shots like Bill Russell and all. And then my other hero from Louisiana, because I used to listen to all their games on KMOX out of St. Louis, was Bob Pettit.
Oh, yeah.
And he was such a great shooter, great offensive player. I remember him playing with a cast on his left arm and still averaging over 26 points a game and stuff. So they were really my basketball heroes. And as a leader, and when the years that Terry spent with the Pittsburgh Steelers were some great years of football. I thought he was a tremendous leader and did a tremendous job. Winning 4 rings was phenomenal. And being a boy from Louisiana made it even more special.
Well, when you would tell people when you'd be outside the state you're from Louisiana, what would you tell them? What did Louisiana mean to you? What did it mean to be from Louisiana?
Well, it means when I say Louisiana, it brings warm feelings to me because I think about all the good times I had as a kid growing up in Bernice, going fishing on Mr. Hicks's ponds or Mr. Hollis's pond, or working the fun time I had working for Mr. Donald Lindsay, and the fun times I had playing basketball and growing up and learning and being a part of a small community. And I knew I was going to come back to Louisiana to retire. I wanted to spend my last years in some places I can get in my car and drive and just kind of enjoy some of the good things in life. And you know, to me, the good things in life is watching the birds and the squirrels play in the trees and going fishing. So, and I've had a chance to do that. And I'm close to people that I know, people have been very influential in my life, and people who have been part of my success.
Well, thank you for spending time with us. And you have been just, you know, such a hero for so many here in Louisiana. And we thank you for your willingness to visit with us. And we congratulate you on being a Louisiana legend and look forward to knowing you for many years to come. Thank you so much,
Thank
Willis.
you for having me.
And thank you for joining us today for this edition of Louisiana Legends.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org. Funding for this program was provided by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting.